Welcome to Great Futures Augusta podcast, powered by Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Augusta and Get Up Productions. Our podcasts are hosted by the Youth of the Year, present and past, asking the tough questions with our local and national leaders on how to create greater futures. Great Futures Augusta podcast starts now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Great Futures Augusta podcast. I'm McKenzie Watson.
I'm your host, Antoniyah.
And today we have our special guest.
What's up, y'all? Dr. Jed. They finally got me in here.
Yes, we've been waiting to get him on here for a long time. Would you like to give our viewers just a little backstory of who you are?
Sure. I'm a associate professor of emergency medicine down at Augusta University. Kind of a wild ride to get here. Started in small town Montana. Bounced around a little bit, lived out of my truck one time, lived in Cambodia for a little bit, did some military service.
Okay.
Here I am.
Why so much moving around, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no problem. I just chased opportunity, basically. So, grew up very small town, kind of non-traditional medical route. Like during first grade and whatnot, we lived in a barn, have hitchhiked, stolen food, all that stuff. Not many of my med school classmates had a similar backstory, but as I kind of went along, I was just always good at school and always liked the human body. And eventually I was a junior in college in Hawaii, and I started to have professors asking me what I was going to do and whatnot and recommend medical school. And I honestly kind of laughed at first. It sounds dumb to me right now, but I thought it was something kind of rich kids did. But enough of them believed in me that it started to plant the seed. And so I wound up taking the MCAT without studying to see if I was smart enough, and it all kind of worked out.
Okay, now he's Dr. J, guys. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So
I wish y'all could see my visual because it's actually really fun to watch their interaction. I'm not gonna lie.
So I know you just mentioned that they saw something in you that you didn't. Why would you say that that's an important thing for people to realize their potential in life?
Super important, just because our circumstances can have huge impacts on our belief in ourselves. And most people don't wind up achieving what they would like to, right? Kind of simply out of self-doubt, honestly. Yeah. Most people just don't believe they're capable of achieving what they want to, or even know to dream big enough. But if you have people that have kind of been there before, in my case, it was college professors. So people that come from a little more experience, a little more background, have been around a little more, sometimes they see some stuff that you just didn't realize you're capable of. It's a lot easier to think you're not good enough than it is to actually believe you're good enough.
Right. So emergency medicine is a field where you are helping a lot of people. Did you know from a young age that you wanted to be in that profession?
No, not at all. Kind of like I mentioned, it actually never even crossed my mind to go to medical school until my junior year of college. And then entering the medical field, I was actually thinking kind of small town family doctor. Mm-hmm. I grew up in really small town Montana. Like we'd literally cancel track practice to go brand cattle if it was one of the important families. Because like all the boys had to wrestle cattle, mm-hmm. like that small. So I was kind of thinking small town primary care doc, but as I got more exposed to it and got into the hospital, I just really found where I fit. ER just kind of works for me. I really like that. You're on a plane and someone, is there a doctor? Yeah. And you're comfortable in that situation. Literally 2 of my last 3 flights, I took care of people that passed out. Oh. It's just like, I wasn't doing anything anyway. And like,
I wasn't doing anything anyway.
Here I was.
What did you want to do when you were younger?
So really wanted to be a superhero. That was like, honestly, that was way big, way big. And I'm talking, I would draw the heroes, all that stuff. And then kind of as I got a little older, I realized, I probably wasn't going to develop powers. And it was a bit of a letdown, I'm not going to lie. Transition on to pro football player, kind of one tier down. And, came along there. And for, Montana, I was good, but that's different than actually being good. Yes. Or it's like being good, but being half the size what I need to be. Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of as that went along, some other thoughts, firefighter, special operations in the military, yada, yada, yada. But as you kind of go along further and further, your field starts to develop into things that really do more align with your skill set. And realistically, as a doctor, on my good days, there's people that are literally alive that wouldn't have been without me. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty satisfying. It's kind of cool to have those good saves. The bad days, people die in front of me, but that's kind of part of the job. And so yeah, ultimately it just kind of worked out. If I get powers, I'm still down for the hero, but the rest of the stuff, I'm good with doctor.
So what's one of the most traumatic experience you've encountered while working in emergency medicine?
So, COVID as a whole being frontline wasn't a great time for the ER. It was an important thing to do, but you just saw a lot of bad death. So a lot of, in the early stages, people dying alone and whatnot. I worked half of COVID doing travel medicine. So I was just working single coverage, meaning I'm the only doc there. And the second half, I was back at Augusta University. So then it's a big academic center. And it's kind of like you fighting death versus your whole team fighting death. And during early COVID, you're kind of losing anyway. So yeah, that was rough. And then honestly, anytime kids don't do well is just not super fun. It's pretty unnatural. But it just kind of, again, it's kind of part of the job. And,
were there certain things about your job that you had to do that you wouldn't think you would be able to do years before you got the job? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense. And, honestly, just becoming a doctor, like I said, was something I wasn't 100% sure I was capable of. And then going through, you go through undergrad, and I always worked 3 jobs in undergrad. And I never really studied much, but I was interested and I went to school and I paid attention. And that's about 15 credits a semester. You guys will learn about all that pretty soon. You get into medical school and it's normally about 25 to 30 credits a semester. So, you're working quite a bit harder. Stuff's a little bit tougher, all that. And there was definitely a time during my first year, I literally shaved my head and thought about quitting. My full-on Britney moment. But,
Not Britney moment.
But, I kind of powered through that. And I actually went on to finish top 2% in the country on my final set of boards. So, I had it. I just hadn't learned how to be a med student yet. So it just kind of took a little time to kind of adapt to a new setting. And change is always hard.
Okay, I've noticed you have a very big following on Instagram. You don't really post a lot of medical things. You post a whole bunch of other things, helping in the community, helping others. What inspired you to not only just post medical things, but other things as well?
Yeah, sure. So first off, no one wants the doc when you're trying to breathe. Be like, wait, hold up. Let me get that selfie. There are definitely some limitations from both legal and just respect as far as, doing too much of my job, posting on social media. But essentially, I've always been into health and fitness. That's always been a passion of mine. Kind of from the come up, I wanted to be a superhero, didn't get powers, so worked as hard as I could to develop my own. I fell a little short, but doing what I can. So yeah, that's just kind of a passion of mine. And then that has wound up being most of my more Instagram focus, a little just kind of how I live, which is some medicine, some fitness, some exploring the world.
What made you want to be involved with the club?
With the Boys and Girls Club? Yeah, I actually worked for you guys when I was in college. So yeah, in Greeley, Colorado, I worked as just staff, and big respect for it. Like I came from more of a ranch and construction labor background where anything I'd done to generate wealth was like, sweat, some blood sometimes type thing. And then once I got into college, I realized you could actually get paid to do stuff that I was like, in my head, when you're used to running a shovel, I was like, wait, I can just like hang with kids and they don't pay me. So at the time I was like, gold mine. But as I got with the club, got involved, the mission is incredible. They really provide, and you guys know honestly better than me because you're firsthand, I'm just there from an employee, but they seem to me to really provide some opportunity for people that may not have grown up in a setting where they knew they had all those chances. Because America's kind of this unique thing where, you graduate high school and you have a U.S. passport, like really the whole world's open to you. But there's huge chunks of American society that haven't seen that opportunity firsthand, so they don't know that. So me coming up, living in a barn in first grade to getting to be a doctor is real rare. Though it doesn't really need to be. And I think the Boys and Girls Club, though the stories are different, kind of helps broach that gap a little bit.
Right. And I completely agree with that point. Growing up, I wouldn't think that I would even have the opportunities that I have today as a right now 16-year-old. Be 17 on Tuesday? On Tuesday.
all right.
But yeah, especially because of how I grew up, where I grew up. And for us to have such open and very present opportunities, even like talking to you, we get so many connections through the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm honestly so grateful for it. I'm sure she is too.
I am.
But yeah.
No, that's cool. I didn't know if I was allowed to ask questions too, but I was actually really curious about kind of your,
Yes.
your kind of experience with the club and whatnot, because I follow the club Instagram, and I see you guys running around DC, wilding out everywhere.
Yeah.
Looks like some incredible opportunities,
Yes.
honestly.
You could definitely ask us questions.
Yes.
And you say, wait, Tuesday, so are you still Aquarius or no?
Yes.
I knew I liked you. Mine was on the 29th. There we go. Oh, what? All right, good people. Good people.
Sorry.
She was born, her birthday is the 16th, guys, if y'all want to send us birthday presents. Dr. Jed too. He sent us all
There you
presents.
go. There you go. Send them to the club. Send them to the club.
Okay, what does community mean to you, and what impact do you wish to have on the greater Augusta community?
Yeah, so community is something that is just exceptionally important.
Mm-hmm.
You go through, and that's one thing that there's plus and minuses to every choice you make. My life, I have kind of drifted and bounced a little bit everywhere. But once you get to a place where you can actually establish community, those are things that really matter. You can be super, super successful, kind of bouncing around, making shallow connections all over the world, wind up dying at an empty funeral. Realistically, community is kind of those things that they ground you, give you roots. As far as the CSRA goes, and one of the reasons I'm involved in y'all's club, I knew about it from working at it before,
Right.
But then kind of hearing some of your stats, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, no one's entered the JUI system that's a regular member in 16 years or so. Is that right? I mean, that's incredible considering,
Yes.
a lot of people don't know all the areas in Augusta, but I work in the ER, so I see everything. And
Right.
that stat's mind blowing to me. And then also really high rates of graduating high school, decreased teen pregnancy, like all these things to really give people in your shoes a shot, which I think is amazing. So
Yeah. And like I said, they do put us in front of a lot of big names, a lot of big businesses, a lot of big money, but they do so much for us. So great point. Love that point. A lot of people associate the medical field, being in the medical field, with intelligence. What would you say to people that don't feel like they have that certain level of brain power if they wanted to be in the medical field?
Sure. And I mean, like I said, I can relate because I didn't really think I was there. But there's kind of intelligence can be developed. It's not necessarily something you're born with.
Okay.
People are born with certain aptitudes. And what you really want to do is figure out your strengths, your aptitudes, and hopefully your aptitudes align somewhat with your passions. Because you can have a passion, like say I really loved singing. I don't, but say I did. No matter how much passion, work, and energy, I'm not going to be a pro singer because that wasn't a skill the good Lord gave me. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to have some baseline aptitude, but anything you put your mind to and you put the work in, you can really develop. Kind of going back to that thing like I was talking about, coming in through my first semester of med school and everything like that, I was definitely bottom half of the class, but wound up as I learned to do it, learned to put in the work, all that stuff, I wound up very, very top percentile on a national. And it's just, it's just putting in the work, basically. You can make up for a lot if you work harder.
What were some of your hardships or challenges that you faced to shape you to the person you are today?
Sure. It's been a road. So I think, I did grow up, like I mentioned, pretty financially poor from a U.S. standpoint. I've traveled the world now and realized that, even though we were hungry at times, it wasn't regular. So still did fine from that standpoint, but it did help. It helped me and my older brother really learn that we had a great childhood, but we weren't going to have our parents' adulthood. Like that was a hard no. Both of us wound up relatively successful. Coming along the way during the training, just learning to put in the work. Sometimes you're doubting yourself and whatnot. So that first year of medical school was hard for me, but adapted, overcame, kind of went through there. When I got into the military standpoint, I knew I wanted to do special operations, and some of that training is not super fun. I'm glad I went through it, but I mean, there was a full week where I got 8 hours of sleep, people taking your food away, shivering all night in a swamp. And you went through the swamp during the day and you saw the snakes and whatnot. And then you're going through at night and you can't see anything. And it's like, there's just stuff that wasn't super comfortable, but I knew I needed to tough through it to kind of get to where I wanted to be and test myself. I wanted to be able to look in the mirror and understand that I didn't quit. Sometimes I failed, but for the most part, I've never quit.
Is that what keeps you going in the career that you're in now? Because I know it can be a kind of rough thing, especially being in the ER. Is that what keeps you going now, just to be able to look in the mirror and say, I did that?
Honestly, I actually really like being an ER doc. So it's kind of where I fit. I enjoy having those skill sets. If the zombies attack, I'm going to get let in the community and get fed, because I'm useful, right? Like, you want to be useful at what you're doing. So yeah, I enjoy it. And then honestly, if you put in the work to achieve something relatively big, like in my case, a medical degree, it actually gives you a lot of leeway if you know yourself and you have the strength to say no to stuff. So what I mean by that is, I could absolutely work more and make more. There's, people would absolutely let me do that, but I kind of know what's important to me and I know where that balance lies. So my current setup, and that's why I'm in Augusta right now, I'm 50% med school, 50% hospital. So I have this really neat mix of teaching and working shifts to where you're not really doing either too much to where you're getting burnt out on it.
What is one piece of advice would you give to someone that's feel like they're at the bottom of the barrel or about to give up?
Sure. Number one would be take a look at what you're going for. So sometimes you're tracing a dream that's not necessarily your own. So you got to kind of assess why you're putting in the work first. And if you really are putting in the work, struggling, all that stuff, not liking your life for a goal that you don't even really want to achieve that bad, that's okay to actually stop and just do something else. If it's a goal that's absolutely you and you understand that there's some hardship along the way to get there, then what you got to do is just decide to power through. And sometimes it helps to just kind of think back to humans are pretty incredible. You look back through history at what everyone else has overcome and doing, and everyone has their struggles and hardships. Even like learning a second language, I would think is impossible, except for hundreds of millions or billions of people have done it. So you know what I mean? So it's just keep on putting in the work. Don't get discouraged in that day to day. And a lot of times you're kind of in this blur and this haze. Some time passes, but you kept on working and everything's fine at the end. It all starts kind of flowing together.
Right. How do you feel like having a healthy work life and then personal life balance can benefit somebody's life?
Oh, huge. So there's the little adage from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People called take care of the goose. I don't know if you guys know that story, but real quick, it's basically, there's a fairy tale about a goose that lays golden eggs. So the farmer eventually cuts it open so he can get out the eggs, but he was getting a golden egg a day. And now he got 6 eggs and he's not going to get any more. So take care of the goose. If you let yourself get too far out of balance, you're not able to produce at that level. You're basically wrecking your life, not enjoying your life to achieve something that you're not going to keep on doing anyway. Anyway, if you keep on doing it. And kind of a sad example of that is, as far as physicians go, female physicians are about 4 times more likely to commit suicide than female non-physicians. Males are about twice as likely. And there tends to be this weird correlation between kind of success, achieving your dreams, and actual suicide risk. And it's because, this is my thoughts, but it's, when you're chasing that dream really hard, it's so easy to kind of let go of that personal balance, to let go of that self-care and okay, it's all right. I'll just skip the meal and the workout this time so I can see another patient, blah, blah, blah. And that keeps on stacking. And eventually you kind of, get frazzled.
Whoa. That was a lot to process.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
It's okay.
But let's be honest. Y'all are juniors in high school in Augusta, Georgia, which means naivety left you a long time ago.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Before we move on to our final question, I have one last question to ask. Since you have worked at the Boys and Girls Club when you were in college, what big differences have you seen from today?
You mean as far as how the club goes?
Mm-hmm. How has it changed in your perspective, in your view?
Yeah. So, I worked at one in Colorado. So, there's some regional difference in everything, just kind of demographics of who's there, everything like that. There's always regional difference. But as far as the actual mission and what they're achieving, it seemed to me has been pretty solid all the way through. When I was working at it back in college, I was really impressed with the opportunities that were being given. What I've seen at y'all's club, super, super impressed there. as far as the actual stats, those ones we were talking about earlier, like nobody going to juvie out of, I don't know. Do you guys know how many thousands of members? Because I know you got 5 clubs or something, but it's a lot. I know it's not just a little.
I think for the CSRA region, are you looking it up?
Yeah, I'm about to look it up.
Oh, look at you.
We have actual
using the Google. Using the Google.
Well, while she's looking that up, do you have any questions for us?
So how has the Boys and Girls Club inspired what you want to do post high school?
The Boys and Girls
Or affected?
Yeah. The Boys and Girls Club allowed me to see the fact that, like I said earlier, no matter where I came from, that my dreams are valid and that I could reach those dreams through means of hard work, dedication, but also to reach for your passions. Like, I never thought that something in the arts was a tangible career at all. My family is military and medicine.
Okay.
And so, like, every time I say I'm the artsy child, they're like, yeah, sure. That'll go away. Find something actual, like, real to do for a job.
Yeah.
But the club allowed me to see that no matter what anybody else says, that my dreams are valid and that if I work hard enough towards them, that I will achieve them and that I have the permission to dream as big as I want to dream. So.
Okay, that's great. And I can tell you firsthand, the first time I met you, Michaela, was when I was judging Youth of the Year a couple years back.
Yeah.
And I remember after your speech being like, I hope I never have to compete against that girl. In anything. So yeah, if anyone can do it, I got faith.
Yeah,
I got
thank
faith.
you.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
You got the numbers, you got the lookup.
It says 98% of our regularly attending club members graduate high school on time with a plan for their future. 76% of low-income club members ages 12 to 18 who attend the club regularly reported receiving mostly A's and B's compared to 67% of their peers nationally. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
We got stats, y'all.
No, for real. I mean, you actually look up the stats. It's one of the reasons that,
Right.
you guys are on my list of charities I like and whatnot. It's just impressive. Like, it's very impressive considering the circumstance of a lot of your members, where they're coming from, and the opportunities they're getting with that.
Right.
Well, I guess I'll answer your question now.
Perfect. I was waiting, edge of my seat.
At first, I wanted to be a chemical engineer. That's what I had my mindset on because of the school that I go to. They really instilled me to be like an engineer or healthcare. But when I was in 8th grade, we had a choice of the engineering pathway or the healthcare pathway, and I decided to do the healthcare pathway. So coming to the Boys and Girls Club really just gave me a boost. Like that boost to like actually want to do it. Cause I'm a real indecisive person. I'll say I want to.
that was a confirmatory nod for those of you that cannot see.
Sorry.
Excuse me?
You are.
Okay. I would say I want to be a dancer, which I wanted to do as well. But now that has changed, I have my mind set on being a nurse practitioner or just anything in the medical field. So, and I feel like the mentors and my peers keep me up to date with the things that I want to do, so I won't change my mind in the future. Yeah,
no, I think that's amazing. And I really like the NP path because one of the kind of neat things about it is it's a very tiered approach. So basically you're going to go to nursing college, you're going to get your RN, you're going to have to work for a second, and then you can decide you want to do the NP or not. So you're going to be just exceptionally educated about the choice by the time you have to make it. And you'll be making money and having a good job kind of on your path to making that. So yeah, rock solid.
Do you know how long I would have to
No,
go to
it's okay.
school to be an NP? Because when I looked it up, it's like it says different things each time I look it up. So I don't really.
Yeah. And we have a number of our ER nurses that have gone on to be NPs. I can actually link you up with some of the ones that are pretty new grads in NP if you want, because they're going to know the path way better. But it kind of depends on how you do it. A lot of people, what they do is they're doing NP school while they're actually still working as an RN. So it winds up extending out their course a little bit, because they're not just full-time student and they're actually working as a nurse, but they're gaining pretty valuable experience. You're getting clinical experience while you're working as a nurse that's going to help you as an NP as well. So like I said, there's kind of different routes to do it, but I can definitely hook you up with some of our newer grads and they'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay, please.
My little artsy brain isn't processing any of this medical NPRA, whatever y'all said. Yeah, need somebody. Oh, wait. Actually, before we get to our last question, I had a fun personal question. Can you share with our viewers, because a lot of kids my age watch Grey's Anatomy, what the difference is? Have you seen any?
I've seen a couple, yeah. I haven't seen like all of them, but.
Can you explain to them if there are any big inaccuracies or why you shouldn't believe medical TV dramas and compare it to actual medicine?
Sure. So nobody likes watching medical TV shows with a doctor because, a lot of times we're like, oh, that's not right. No. But honestly, they do a pretty reasonable job.
They do.
Whatever. Make fun of my Montana.
They do.
They do a reasonable job at some of the pathology and whatnot. A lot of times they're using real cases to build their shows off of. The biggest inaccuracy is for TV, you need stars. Right. So, you got Meredith Grey that's down seeing a patient in the ER, then sees him on the floors, taking him to surgery, doing all their aftercare. In modern hospital systems, normally those steps are disconnected. So the person that wound up in surgery with Meredith Grey would have got seen and diagnosed by an ER doc, in the ER. She may have got consulted to come in. That's possible, but she wouldn't have been like the one primarily seeing patients down there. Generally speaking, surgeons aren't the ones rolling their patients up to imaging or going up to the pathology lab. All that's kind of happening while they have to see other patients, and then they get the info kicked back to them to make decisions. There's also, it's a big place with a lot of people that are kind of living their lives and whatnot, but there's definitely less hookup drama than in Grey's Anatomy. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but it's less prevalent than Grey's Anatomy. Those would be the big changes.
That's not very heartening to hear that my shows are fake, but it's okay.
Not completely fake, though. Not completely fake.
Not completely, but would you like to ask her?
Wait.
Oh,
no. Okay. Yes, I would like to ask. I thought this question was like the same as my question.
Oh no,
but it's not. Okay.
Again, y'all, if you could only have my view, it's you're gonna have to make it a movie, and then you'll have your whole thing. That'll be.
If you could give one piece of advice to the great futures of Augusta, what would it be?
One piece of advice. I mean, that's a big pearl, right? That's a big pearl. I would say, honestly, there's something called a personal mission statement. And that is something where you kind of write down your own values. And a personal mission statement can be very different for different people. For some people, it's a single quote. For other people, like myself, it's about a small journal page of kind of things that I consider important to me and ways in which I want to conduct myself to be proud of who I am. Everyone's personal mission, i.e. personal, is going to be different. But if you know your values, it's a lot easier to follow your values. And that can help you a lot with big choices because you're going to get choices and there's always good and bad to literally every decision. But if you know what's really important to you on a deep level, when you're at your best, well rested, writing stuff down versus having to make some choice on the fly, you can kind of use that to make the right choice for you on the long-term run, even if it may cost you some short-term money or something like that. When you align with your values, you're making the right choices for you on the long term.
I like that answer.
Me too. Do you have a...
Well, I had to think about it, it was a big... like, y'all got bright futures. I don't want to steer you wrong.
Your personal mission?
I do. It's not really a mission. It's more of a mantra. But yeah.
Do you really? Mm-hmm. Will you share it or no?
Sure.
And if you won't, that's all right.
Oh my gosh, yes, I'll share it. I want to tell the story behind it first. So when we have a family friend, their whole family, we're all really close, right? And when I was around 5, I don't remember why it came up, but I did something. I guess I tied my shoe or something. I did something really good for a 5-year-old. And Mr. Kidd, my godfather, shout out. Yeah, he said, McKenzie, you are the lion amongst the lemmings. And I don't want you to ever forget that. And as a 5-year-old, I'm like, I'm not a lion. What are you talking about? But as I got older, I processed what it meant. And, I tell myself that every night. It helps me realize my potential, like you said. It allows me to be fully myself, no matter how different that may be, no matter how bold my opinion may be. It allows me to fully show up in the world, really. And so I tell myself that every night, make sure that I never forget that. So do you have a...
That's awesome. That's super impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You don't?
No.
You're going to... conjure one.
But I mean, to be real, at y'all's place, I absolutely did not. You know, the first time I ever wrote my personal mission was probably, I don't know, it's probably 5 years ago on a adventure cruise to Antarctica. I just had time. So I was just working at the dock. So yeah, you know, so I had a lot of time to read and think and everything. So I was just sitting up watching icebergs.
Would you mind sharing yours?
Mine? So mine's a little bit longer. Like I said, it's a page, but I'll give you some summaries.
Okay.
Part of it was figuring out purpose a little bit and going back to what me and you both wanted to be when we were little. So I think my primary role is actually a hero, and I consider that inspiration, bringer of hope, and a teacher. Coming off that, I strive to be strong, kind, free, and generous. I try to prioritize inner circle over shallow relationships. And I try to live my life somewhat as a student of life. So exploring creation with gratitude and awe, and trying to keep on learning along the way.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Mine is not as long.
Yours is beautiful, though. Yours is, like I say, yours is real impressive. And when I watched you giving that speech when you were 15 or whatever, I was like, if I'd have known it then, I'd have been like lying among the lemons. So
yeah. Ooh, I was a teeny bopper back then. I was like 14.
Teeny bopper.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, guys. Thank you for tuning into the Great Futures Augusta podcast. Again, I've been your host, McKenzie Watson.
And I was your host, Antoniyah.
And this is...
Great Futures. Right? No?
your name.
With Dr. Jed.
Yeah. Okay, cut.
You have been listening to Great Futures Augusta podcast, powered by Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Augusta and Get Up Productions. Voiceover by Shannon Holly Voiceovers. Learn more about our podcast and get involved at bgcgreateraugusta.org. Thank you for tuning in.